Hi everyone, so let's start next question. 1661 average time of process per machine. It is of type easy. Table name is activity. So column, there are four columns in this one: machine ID, process ID, activity type and timestamp. Machine ID, process ID are integer. So and then activities of type enum, so that means it has predefined values. So here we can see that the predefined values are either start and end, then timestamp, which is a float. The table shows the user activity for a factory website. Machine ID, process ID, activity type is the primary key. So suppose if we want to look at the unique record, then we have to use machine ID, process ID and activity type. Machine ID is the ID of machine. Process ID is the ID of process running on a machine with ID machine ID. So that means that one machine can have multiple processes running on it, and then all those processes will also have a unique ID. Process ID, okay, process ID. Now the next is activity type, which is of type enum. Category of type start and end. Timestamp is a float representing the current time in seconds. Start means the machine starts the process at a given timestamp, and end means the machine ends the process at a given time. So if we look at the machine ID 0, it has two processes, 0 and 1 unique. So machine ID 0 with the process ID 0 started a process at 0.712 timestamp. Then machine ID 0, process ID 0 ended the process at 1.52. So in total it took 1.52 minus 0.712 time to complete the process. There is a factory website that has several machines, each, okay, I think we have to read from here. Start means the machine start the process at the given timestamp, and end means machine ends the process at a given timestamp. The start timestamp will always be before the end. We know that the process will start and then it will end. And timestamp for every machine. It is guaranteed that each machine pair has a start and end timestamp. So we know that the constraint here is if the process is started on a machine, then it has to end. There is a factory website that has several machines each running same number of processes. Write a solution to find average time each machine takes to complete a process. So if we understand the question, then it means that, let's say for this one, if the time required to complete the process is 1.52 minus 0.712, then for this one, which is machine ID 0 and process ID 1, the time will be 4.12 minus 3.14. And then if we look for the formula of average, it means that average is total time to complete divided by number of processes. So the total time here will be, if I look for the machine ID 0, it will be 1.52 end time minus 0.712. So this will be the time to complete the first process. For second process, the time it will take to complete is 4.12 minus 3.14. And now if you want to get the average of this, so it will be total time divided by, there are total two processes, so 2. So this will give us the average time to complete the process on each machine. Write a solution to find average time each machine takes to complete a process. The time to complete a process in the end timestamp minus the start timestamp. The average time is calculated by total time to complete every process on the machine divided by number of processes that were run, which we saw it here. So for machine 0, there are two processes, 1 and 2, and the average will be total time to complete the process 1, total time to complete the process 2, and number of processes, which are 2. The resulting table should have machine ID along with average time. Okay, so the final output should have machine ID along with the average time, which we'll call it processing time, and we have to round it to 3 decimal places. And we can return the result in any order. So let's see how we can do it. So here I have already written the create table statement and insert statement, and the primary key is machine ID, process ID, and combination of activity type. So the first thing which we have to get is, for every machine ID, every process ID, we have to get the start time and end time. So let's see how we can get it. So I'm going to write select from table name is activity, and we have to get it for every machine. So we know that we have to group by machine ID and then process ID. So we have to find for every process, each machine, what is the start time and end time. So we know that, I can put it in the select statement, that max of timestamp will be my end time. So if I look at the machine ID 1 and it has process ID 1, then the end will be the maximum of these two, because the end time will always be greater than the start time, and minimum of timestamp as start time. So if I run this query, I am expecting that machine ID 1, process ID 1 will have a end time as 5.55 and will have a start time as 1.10. Similarly, for machine ID 1, end time will be 6 and start time will be 2. So let's see. So here, if you'll see, we are getting the result for machine ID 1. End time is this and start time is this one. Now we just have to get the difference of this, and then we have to count the number of processes running in the each machine. So if we say this one, so it has machine ID is 1 and it is running 2 processes, machine ID 2 is running 2 processes, and machine ID 3 is running 1 process. So now we just have to find the average of start time and time, and we have to divide by number of process IDs for a particular machine ID. So this compiler don't support CT, so we are going to write it here. So now we have already got machine ID, process ID, so, and if I run it here, so we can see that we have every information for each machine ID. Now we know that the process ID and its end time and start time. So we can put this in the CT, and then we have to find average of end time minus, or I can show you step by step. So it will be machine ID comma, let's say, end time minus start time as time required, and then we have to group by machine ID, and we also have to find how many processes are running on each machine. So we have to count processes. So let's see. Okay, it will be grouped by. So now here we are getting that for machine ID 0, time it takes is 0.8, and then the number of processes are 2, and for ID 1 the time is 99 and the number of processes are 2. Okay, now we just have to find the average of it. So we know that the average will be total time divided by the number of processes, and we just have to get the average, or we can get this one and then check. Okay, I think for this one, let's see it again. So for every machine we are getting the timestamp or the time it required to complete the whole process, but now we have to get the average. So average will be this one. So now we are getting the average because it is a end time minus start time. Or if we, and then we have to round it, so round, and we have to round it to 3 decimal places. So if I do this, then we are getting the correct result. But if suppose we don't know the formula for average, or we don't know if average exists in the SQL, then how we can do it? So I'm just doing Control Z to what we had earlier, this one. So what I can do is I can sum the end time minus start time and run it. Let's see. So it will be 1.78 and the number of processes are 2. So all I have to do is I have to divide the total sum with the number of processes, and I have to give it a name as processing time. I also have to round it, but let's see first. So we are getting expected result. Now we just have to round it, round to 3 decimal places, and let's run it. And